The Striped Ships, Chapter 5. Gradually the hazy afternoon sky dulled to gray, and the chill breeze turned raw and smelled of rain. When the first spitting raindrops swept in from the south, Juliana knew she must find shelter for the night. Already dusk was gathering in the broken woodland through which they were threading their way, and the forest proper loomed at their left in a curtain of darkness. They had found no trace of a road. They had seen no one, not even from a distance, let alone close enough to ask their way. And Wulfric was now limping, though he tried to hide it. Juliana pulled him firmly into the half shelter of a tangle of bilberry, out of the wind, and said, "What ails your foot?" "It's well enough, I can keep up," he protested, squirming. But when she merely kept hold of him and waited, he met her eyes, his expression somewhere between chagrin and tears. "It's not my foot," he burst out. "It's that knee I hurt Midsummer's Day when I fell off Elf, and it's going all swelled up again, and I can't lie abed this time and have comfrey poultices and valerian tea and nurse to wait on me, but Jilly, it hurts, and what will we do if— Be still. You're saying it's never plagued you till now, since Midsummer's." It has," said Wulfric reluctantly. "The day I ran away from Lewis, but then I found Oswig's hut, and I could leave off walking till I got better, and in Hastings once I stepped in a rabbit hole, but then Finn—" Yea so. Juliana heaved a sigh and felt as if the last of her strength had drained away with the breath. Her feet felt heavy as stones. "We must both leave off walking for this day. I'm as weary as you." She glanced around, spotted a fairly dry nook behind a big moss-grown rock, and pointed. "Sit there while I find a sleeping place. By morning the swelling may be gone, and, God willing, there might be comfrey growing hereabouts." He hobbled obediently to the rock and eased himself down beside it, the ailing leg gingerly outstretched. His usually ruddy face looked pale and strained, but perhaps it was the light. Juliana put it out of her mind and began slowly, on her stone-heavy feet, to search for shelter. She had to go into the edge of the forest to find it, a big rotting stump overgrown with lesser plants, its cave-like hollow half concealed behind bracken fronds. A pile of these, cut with Wulfric's knife, made a softer bed than the floor of the castle storeroom with its scanty straw. And as Juliana helped Wulfric to it, she reflected, again with that sense of unreality, that only 2 nights before she had slept in that storeroom, which now seemed half a lifetime away. In the twilight woodland she found a big patch of St. John's wort, even better than comfrey, and she made a poultice for Wulfric's knee, crushing the leaves to free the red juice and binding it on as well as she could, with a length of creeper. "Now all we lack is supper," Wulfric said cheerfully, his spirits reviving. "And God be thanked we have the herrings." "Finn be thanked, rather," thought Juliana. "Or me for making you eat herbs today instead." But aloud she said only, "We also lack water. A pity God did not provide us with a brook just here and a cup hanging from a branch. But if you want to eat dried fish and lie awake with thirst, I'll not stop you." Wulfric looked thoughtful, and presently remarked that he was not, after all, so very hungry. Juliana smiled and touched his ragged hair, and judged that it was time to serve forth her stolen horse oats. A skimpy handful apiece kept them fully occupied for a while with trying not to break their teeth. By the time their emptiness eased, they could barely see each other in the gloom. Huddled together for warmth, and too weary to fear trolls or wood elves, they settled themselves to sleep. Wulfric's wiry body soon went slack, and his breathing grew deep and steady. But Juliana could not let go. The day's journey had tired her to exhaustion, as had every day's labor at Hastings. But at Hastings she had dropped down upon her straw at night, knowing that she had survived the day, that tomorrow would be no different, and that she must survive that too, and never weep, never cringe, never suffer a word against Harold Godwinson, never cease hating Normans. It was all she asked of herself, all her father Baldric would have demanded. Indeed, it had seemed the utmost she could do. Tonight that seemed to her a simple thing, merely to endure the old labors, defy the new blows, outwit the masters once again? Simple, because all was known and expected and could be fought. Now all was unknown, tomorrow unpredictable, impossible to guard against, and she was master. There was no one to tell her what to do next or how to do it. She tried to think of how her father would manage, or Lord Alfgar, or Harold Godwinson, if they were lost in the Weald without food or friends and Wulfric gone lame. But she could scarcely imagine them unarmed and afoot, let alone helpless or frightened. She knew already what her mother Hildegund would do in extremity, for she had done it, and it was not to Juliana's liking. Swain, ah well, God a mercy, if Swain were here, were alive, and she could find him. Swain always knew what to do. He would work everything out, look after both of them. But Swain was not here, perhaps not even alive. Not even old Lustwind was here, though he was only a servant. Not even nurse. Suddenly, Juliana longed for nurse with a desperation that brought the remembered sharp scent of dried herbs and aniseed, the very sound of a voice that was always brisk, always sure. Trying in vain to visualize Nurse Editha curled in this hollow stump, Juliana slept at last. The next day God smiled. They awoke to a clearing sky, found a mug's measure of rain collected in the hollows of the big rock, and Wulfric's knee mended. You must take care none the less, Juliana told him as they gathered a leafy breakfast. It will likely go lame again when you tire. None of your bouncing and jumping. Walk like a monk to his prayers. I will, then, vowed Wulfric. Now, if only I knew how to find a road, Juliana added to herself, as they set out doggedly northeast through a spinney of birch and oak as trackless as all the others, which soon merged into a dense forest. Once more the Weald enfolded them. But still God was smiling. Within an hour they came quite suddenly upon a clearing, at the far side of which stood a small hut. It was partially sunk in the ground, so that its thatch, steep-pitched, with a thread of blue smoke curling upward from the smoke-hole, rose directly from the forest floor. They halted warily, noting the tiny garden, a pen in which a few hens pecked a tethered ewe. Beyond the hut stood a little wattled building with a crude cross of sticks nailed up beside its doorless entrance. As they peered at it, the figure of an old man appeared in the opening. All was instantly explained. He was shabby and barefoot, but also shaven, clipped, and tonsured, plainly by his own inexpert hand. A holy man, whispered Wulfric. He got to his knees awkwardly as he remembered to favor the left one, and Juliana did also, crossing herself and praying the hermit was not so holy that he would drive them at once from his refuge without allowing a word to be spoken. She need not have worried. He raised his hand in blessing, then stooped out of the low doorway and hobbled toward them smiling, blinking happily and already asking questions. In a soft, wavering voice that sounded rusty from disuse, he asked if they were hungry, if they had lost their way, where they had come from and where they were going, what their names were. Before they could answer, he asked straight on if they liked milk and how often they said their prayers each day, and when they had left home. Meanwhile, he was hovering around them like a shepherd with two strays, urging them by little gestures and nods toward his hut, beckoning them to a seat on the flattened log which lay alongside his door. And when he finally fell silent, they burst into a jumble of eager speech. They discovered that he was stone deaf, and all replies must be made somehow by sign and mummery. Juliana's soaring hopes tumbled into dismay. "Oh, but how will we ever ask the way to Canterbury?" she whispered. "No matter," Wulfric muttered. "I will find some way to tell him that I like milk, and am hungry enough to eat the ewe herself." He launched at once into a performance that needed only a harpist to be worthy of a Thane's banqueting. The hermit, who called himself Brother Saywald, showed every sign of delight, and none of insisting on more difficult answers. He was soon ducking into his dark little hut again, emerging with a bowl of gruel and one of stewed nettles, beckoning Wulfric into his garden to pull a few onions, while he milked the ewe into his only mug. He had only one spoon also, carved of horn, but his guests found that no obstacle to sharing the most bountiful meal either had had in months. Afterwards, he asked again where they were going. Juliana mouthed, "Canterbury," as plainly as she could, mimed a tonsure, a monk on his knees at his devotions, and another pulling on a bell rope, and then pointed in the direction she hoped was northeast. To her relief, the hermit's face lighted. He repeated, "Canterbury. It was my home among men. The dean is an old friend since we were boys like you." The old man grinned and nodded at Wulfric. "His name is Henry. Give him greetings from Brother Saywold if you see him." Thoughtfully he added, "He does not approve of his Archbishop Stigand, nor do I, a man excommunicated by 5 popes. Ah, well, God will send another in his good time. Now, my children." He raised a gnarled finger and pointed, not where Juliana had pointed, but at near right angles to it. "You must walk that way until you see a tract, and then follow it to your left. Mind you, not your right. By the hour of nones you will come to Benenden. There are kindly folk there, and they will show you the old stone road. That road will lead you through the Weald." He smiled and raised his hand in blessing. "God go with you. Give my brother kiss to Henry, though not to the Archbishop. No, not to Stigand." Shaking his head severely, he turned, still muttering to himself, and hobbled back toward his little oratory, no doubt to make the next of his ceaseless devotions. "God go with him, too," murmured Wulfric gratefully. "And be thanked for leading us to him," said Juliana with her whole heart, "and protect him from Normans." "God would not lead any Normans here," Wulfric declared, as they started in the direction the hermit had pointed. "At least he has not so far." She pondered that uneasily. "I think Brother Saywold did not even know about the ships, about the battle. Did it seem so to you?" Wulfric considered and shrugged. "It may be." "It may be," thought Juliana, "that he does not even know Harold Godwinson is not our king, but lies mouldering, no one knows where, hacked to pieces, Sweyn said, and the pieces scattered." "Well, as well for him if he does not know," Wulfric decided. Juliana murmured, "Yea, so," but she could not help wondering how long it might have been since Brother Saywold had been to that village in Benenden and seen with his own eyes those kindly folk. Resolutely she turned her thoughts, and a few moments later Wulfric announced, "There is the track." It was a plainer track than yesterday's thread of a path that had meandered and twisted and vanished. This one showed signs of enough use to keep it visible among the ferns that lapped the tree trunks like a dark green sea, a sea increasingly rolling as the ground under their feet tilted into ever more hilly terrain. They followed the trail some hours, stopping sometimes to rest Wulfric's knee, and once beside a spring to drink and eat some watercress. Gradually Juliana felt her tensions easing, the despairs of last night fading, and her confidence cautiously rising. Here the world seemed much as it had always been, though near empty of people. They saw no one except a charcoal burner tending his smoky fire a furlong away across an open patch, and an old man in a hooded tunic who appeared far ahead of them on the track, hobbled along busily for a little time, then disappeared down some hidden way as abruptly as he had come. Out of the Weald's native dwellers they only caught glimpses, the flick of a squirrel tail, a flash of white underwing, though the forest reverberated with the incessant twitter and flutter and rustle of their presence. In the late afternoon they crossed a once cultivated field, now weedy and idle, and from the crest of the little rise beyond it they saw the first house of Benenden. It was a blackened skeleton, forlorn amid its ashes. The peace of the long, unthreatening day was shattered in an instant. The flesh crawled on Juliana's arms and scalp as she stared at the familiar, ugly face of ruin. Plainly, the Normans had been here, leaving Benenden as they had left Bexhill and Wilting and Ashburnham and Guestling and Pevensey. She glanced at Wulfric's bleak profile, tried to speak, and could not. "Yea, so," he muttered. After a moment he stirred. "Will we go down anyway?" he asked. "We certainly will, but take care." Cautiously they picked their way down the last slope, staying within the shelter of the trees until they could see beyond the first burned house into the little rutted street. It was a short street, set with no more than a dozen houses, with a savagely demolished hall and its outbuildings at one end, an untouched church at the other. As they stood peering at the sturdy little stone church, a woman came out of its round arched door, lugging a large basket, crossed the churchyard, and began spreading laundered garments on the low wall and the nearest gravestones. "She's living there," Wulfric whispered. It was such a homely, common action, despite the oddity of drying the washing in a churchyard, that both of them started forward, their caution forgotten. The woman's was not. She heard them, whirled, and picked up a fist-sized stone and let it fly. Wulfric seized Juliana's hand and yanked her, stumbling, toward the trees. But the woman cried, "Halt!" and Juliana twisted free. "We are children," she told the woman in a voice shaky with alarm. "We are Saxons. Can you not see that?" The woman had already raised another stone. She did not drop it. "Come closer, then." "It's what we were doing," Wulfric muttered, rubbing gingerly at his knee. When they stood at an arm's length from her in the churchyard, she said, "Yea, so, you are children," and she dropped the stone. "What do you want, then?" "The hermit sent us here to ask our way," said Juliana. She could not blame the woman, but she was frightened by the way she continued to stare at them, narrow-eyed, head and lower lip both outthrust. "He said," Wulfric added belligerently, "this place was full of kindly folk who would help us." After a moment, the woman's expression altered slightly. Her face seemed to change from stone to wood. And so it was once. Her squinting glance swept down the street of ruined houses and up toward the weed-grown field they had crossed. Then it came back to Juliana, who now realized that she was nearly blind. "Hermit, you say? Brother Sewald lives yet. They did not find him." There was no doubt whom she meant by they, and Juliana reassured her. The hermit's name seemed a talisman to the woman. Her face softened further, from wood to aging flesh. She took them into the little porticus, a tiny chamber built onto the side of the little church, and she gave them a mug of water and a morsel of bread for Juliana's basket. And finally she pointed along the weed-grown stone road in the direction of Canterbury. It was an ancient road, which did not curve or seek the easiest way as men and horses naturally walk, but it cut straight across everything after the Roman custom, tidy as if a line had been ruled, save for the gaps where some of its great squared stones had been dug up by folk to build with. "Take care, there are thieves," the woman warned as they set out. They hesitated, startled, but she added nothing, only shuffled back to her interrupted laundry, leaving them to make of it what they could. "We have nothing to steal," Wulfric commented with a shrug as they went on. He was mistaken, as they discovered late in the afternoon, when their shadows stretched long in front of them and they had dropped down wearily by a roadside spring to eat Wulfric's herrings at last. Juliana had barely opened the basket when she heard a rustle among the spindle trees behind her, and a voice said, "I'll have that, little maid," and the basket was plucked from her hands. "And the mantles," said a deeper voice. "Both of 'em. Haste, boy, up with you." Wulfric, who had sat stunned and gaping, was suddenly yanked to his feet and stripped of his mantle by a stocky gray-haired man with a flowing mustache and ragged tunic. At the last moment he came to life with a yell, clamped both hands on his property, and clung so fiercely that was swung off his feet, still clinging, only to be flung aside. He lay gasping and clutching his knee as Juliana, still beating off the younger man, felt her elbows pinned from behind by hands as iron-strong as her father's. It was folly to struggle against a grip like that, as she had learned early and well. The young thief peeled her mantle off unceremoniously over her head, and his comrade held her. "Shame on you, cowards! Child robbers!" she choked as she shook her hair back, half strangled and hot with fury. "Saxons both, and robbing other Saxons! We are Thane's children! My brother is fighting Normans, he is so! If he were here now, he would fight you! Swine's kin! Slaves! She spat with all the force she could summon at their retreating backs, and then dropped down beside Wulfric as the tears came, stinging her eyes and knotting her throat. Oh, Wolf, if I had let you but eat your herrings yesterday. They'd be gone by now anyway, Wolfric muttered. He was still nursing his knee, staring at the thicket into which the two men had vanished. Gone, yea, so, but not inside those great ugly. May God strike them both as they take the first bite. Are you hurt then? My knee only, Jilly. Did you think you knew that man, the young one with the funny ears? Know him? What are you saying? I thought I had seen those ears somewhere. In your nightmares, retorted Juliana. She had been too frightened to notice ears or years, only the baldric-like strength of hands that had brought homesickness and bitter longing sweeping through her, even as it quashed her struggle. Oh, if father were here, she kept thinking. He would batter their heads together. He would slay them with one blow. Now we have nothing to eat or to wrap ourselves in for sleeping. God's mercy they did not want my kirtle or your shoes. They may come back. They forgot my knife, Wulfric remarked. He stood up, sighing, and took a few cautious steps. I can go farther, a little. Juliana, weary of foot and heartsore to find Saxons could be pitiless as Normans, felt she could not, but knew she must. They dragged their way up the next hill and over its crest, and found another cobwebby hollow stump among the taller trees, well away from the road. With a pile of bracken fronds to line it, neither hunger nor the evening chill kept Wulfric long from exhausted sleep. Huddled against him as much for consolation as for warmth, Juliana soon slept too, and dreamed of the striped ships for the first time since leaving Hastings. The old terror ran its familiar course, and though she knew even in her dream that she was dreaming, it was no less terrible. At last, still straining to cry, "Father! Normans! Father!" she awoke, clammy with cold sweat, thinking she had heard a voice from somewhere in the silent wood, quietly calling her name. She lay rigid, disbelieving. After a moment, a night bird whistled, a muted, two-toned note. Another answered indistinctly. Birds only? Yet she listened, wary of thieves and signals. The bird called again. Bird or man, she should make sure, certainly. Beside her, Wulfric came to life and struggled to sit up. Juliana shushed him and crawled from their ferny bed. Something about the still darkness told her they could have slept little more than an hour. Again the whistle came, from the direction of the road, and she crept toward it. As the trees thinned into broken woodland, she saw them, two figures picked out by the waning moon, walking slowly along the wood's edge, peering and whistling. One was the younger of the two men who had robbed them, but the other was not the stocky older man with the iron strong hands. The other was Swain. With a cry, she stumbled forward over the uneven ground and flung herself into his arms.